Bulls Nation, today we had our third game of the preseason come to an end, and it was a nail-biter to say the least. It was close and competitive throughout the entirety of the game, and we do have a lot to talk about. There were some good positives in this game, how we managed to stick through every time Cleveland made a run, and there were also some negatives to the way that we played today, and potential warning signs heading into the regular season that hopefully the Chicago Bulls can rectify sooner or later. But without further ado, let's talk about the Chicago Bulls victory against the Cleveland Cavaliers in this video. Let's do it. What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. Today, we've got our third preseason game reaction against the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Chicago Bulls and the Cleveland Cavaliers battled it out one more time in a much more competitive game, to say the least, and the Chicago Bulls did walk away with their third preseason victory. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the game today for the Chicago Bulls, and how well do you think we played compared to the first time against Cleveland. And we also need to give a lot of respect to how Cleveland approached this game compared to their first game. They definitely made the changes that I think many of us expected them to make, and we definitely saw a different side of Cleveland that we didn't see in the first game. However, the Chicago Bulls did win this game in nail-biting fashion, 102-101, a 1-point victory in a game where it all looks lost towards the fourth quarter. Even though we were close, we were never really taking the lead, and then we'll talk about the individual that got us that victory in the end. But that was a great sign to pick up a victory when the Chicago Bulls were not playing at their best, and that's what we're going to have to do throughout the season. We're not going to have every single game of the season where we play fantastic basketball. There will be off nights. There will be nights where you see some of our best players not shooting the ball efficiently, and that's when we need to grit out and grind results to get victories. So although there are a lot of negatives to this game that we will get into, it's good to know that when we are playing poorly, we can grind out results, because we're going to need those victories. Don't grind out victories throughout the entirety of the season. It's not always going to be sunshines and rainbows and blowouts and huge victories. It's not going to be like that all game, every single game. Every game, 80% of games, in my opinion, in the NBA are close and competitive. Whether it's a 10-point game or a 5-point game or a 2-point game, it's always going to be close. Not many games are blowouts in the NBA, no matter who you're facing. So the victory is what's very positive about this game and how we grinded it out. And we'll talk about the individual performances a little bit later. Now let's talk about some of the positives and the negatives. The positives are, we saw a very positive game from some of our players that we didn't exactly see in previous performances. And I'm talking more specifically about DeMar DeRozan, that had a really standout performance in this game. We also saw a little bit of, I guess, the defensive pressure returning at times. The defense wasn't a big positive today's game, but in the second half, I thought it was much improved from the first half. And that's in the end how we got a lot of steals and we got a lot of, I guess, deflections and whatnot. And once again, we had double-digit steals in this game, which is a very positive sign. But again, the defense wasn't exactly terrific today, but the steals version of that is pretty solid for the Chicago Bulls. There were some negatives as well to talk about. One, we saw really poor performances from some of our players today. We saw some performances where we had players in foul trouble. We saw really poor defense. And this is where you give Cleveland the credit, because they found our weakness and they exploited it very, very nicely. The dribble penetration in this game was really good for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They were able to dribble into the paint at will. And that's something we just can't see reoccurring for the Chicago Bulls. We cannot allow players to dribble into the paint. We have athletes on this team. I understand we are not a big team in terms of size, and the Cleveland Cavaliers played massive today with their lineup, and that's what got them close in this game, and that's what could potentially have won this game for them. The reality is we cannot allow people to dribble into the paint at will. This is something that is unacceptable in my opinion, and hopefully Billy Donovan will be putting into these guys that this is something that should not happen. If they're going to go into the post and they're going to get easy buckets in that way, at the end of the day, this is the sacrifices we have to make. We are not a big team. We don't have a big power forward and a big center. We have Vucevic, who again is a player we're going to get into a little bit later, but our power forward is Javonte Green. He's a 6'3" guard, and they played really big today, and that ended up working well for them. And again, to allow that dribble penetration while they're also getting easy buckets in the paint from the post, these are the things that we need to look into in the next game and try to rectify, because those things we shouldn't be allowing, especially that dribble penetration. That's something that got me really, really worried when it comes to the upcoming season, because we cannot let people glide into the paint at will. We just cannot allow that if you're the Chicago Bulls. Defense needs to be a strong suit in this team, and that is something that just was not strong today. So hopefully we don't see that become a regular issue going forward into the regular season. Let's look at the individual performances today, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, we're going to start with some of the starters, and we're going to end with some of the bench players. First one we're going to talk about is Lonzo Ball today. He had 10 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and 4 blocks. Elite defensive performance from Lonzo Ball today. Again, you saw his ability to play a really solid defensive game, getting deflections, blocking. 4 blocks for a point guard is absolutely sensational. A lot of his shots didn't end up going down today, and again, that just comes down to the performance in the shooting aspect. His shooting wasn't great today. He did have 10 points, but there were some opportunities where he missed shots. And something I want to say about the majority of these players, we are giving up open shots. We are giving up open threes to try and dribble into the paint. There needs to be a fine balance here. If we're going to keep trying to attack the paint, eventually teams are going to understand all we're going to do is try and attack the paint. We need to take open threes that are presented to us. I saw at least 5 possessions maybe where the Chicago Bulls were willing to take a 3 and they passed up on it to try and dribble into the paint and take a layup. That's not something I want to see very often. If there's an open 3 in this team, we need to take that. I understand we're athletes. I understand we can get to the paint. I understand we can finish around the ring. But we need to make defenses have to second guess what we're going to do. And if we're taking open threes while also attacking the paint, the defense doesn't know what they're going to do. They don't know what's going to happen every single possession. So these are the things we need to look at as well. Find a balance between the 3-point shooting and attacking the paint, because I think we did give up a lot of open threes today in terms of the offense. We didn't shoot those threes that normally I think we should be shooting. So we'll see what happens down the line, but that is another issue that I think the Chicago Bulls had. But nevertheless, Lonzo defensively and, again, rebounding-wise, a very strong rebounding performance from our guard. But the blocks were sensational, the steals were sensational, and he just shows overall he's a very good defender. And again, if he keeps up these performances, he could be in contention for Defensive Player of the Year. Don't be surprised if that turns out to be the case with the way that he's playing, at least in preseason. DeMar DeRozan had 23 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal. Now, of course, the negative side to DeMar DeRozan today, he did allow a lot of, cuts into the paint where he was the one guarding. Again, Larry Markkinen is an example of that. He was guarding Larry Markkinen a lot, and Larry Markkinen did get into the paint a lot. He got a few dunks in there, missed dunks as well. These are things that DeMar DeRozan was responsible for at times. And also, he got into foul trouble pretty early. But nevertheless, he was strong in his shooting today. He made 2 threes for the Chicago Bulls, which is an added bonus already to what he could bring to his game. His mid-range game was working very well today. He was making some fadeaways. He made 2 fadeaways in a row. And again, this is what DeMar DeRozan does. He's a scoring machine. Dead-Eye DeRozan was in full effect today because he was a dead-eye shooter for the Chicago Bulls, and he was the one that helped us in carry that, lead and carry that victory for the Chicago Bulls when, again, we weren't performing at our best. DeMar DeRozan stepped up and proved to us why he will be a valuable player. He didn't have a strong preseason so far, but this game was definitely a strong performance from DeMar DeRozan. Nikola Vucevic had 10 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 steals. The 3 steals are good for Nikola Vucevic. The rebounds are good for Nikola Vucevic. The 10 points flatter him, to be honest, because he missed a lot of shots today for the Chicago Bulls. And defensively, he was poor. He got into foul trouble. This was not a great game from Nikola Vucevic. Stats may say otherwise, but stats are not the only thing you need to look at. The eye test, what you see on the court, is often sometimes determines how well a player plays. We saw Jared Allen absolutely abuse Nikola Vucevic in the pace. in the paint and in terms of the post. These are the things Nikola Vucevic struggled to defend against. Of course, he wasn't always going to be that rim protector, but you expect him to get some blocks in that paint. He didn't get a block at all in this game, and the majority of the time he was standing in that paint. And the foul trouble didn't help him as well. He got a lot of and one scored on him. It was just a very difficult night for Nikola Vucevic, and it kind of exposed his weakness in the defensive areas, and that's something that we need to see, I guess, hidden in many ways. Of course, Nikola Vucevic, we know, is not an elite defender. Many people see him as underrated. Overall, there are weaknesses to his defensive game, and I think we saw them in full effect tonight. So hopefully that's something we don't need to see in the future, and hopefully the Chicago Bulls, with their athletes, they're switching. We don't see Nikola Vucevic, I guess, put in those situations. And another thing that the Cleveland Cavaliers did very well was their pick and roll. They used their pick and roll to full effect, and they put Nikola Vucevic in tough situations, and that's how they got their easy buckets as well. Zach LaVine had 13 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist. Now, Zach LaVine, again, just didn't make his shots. That's the only thing I could really say. He did, again, Zach LaVine wasn't great on defense today either, in my opinion. It goes to show that a lot of our players today, although we had some good defensive stretches, it wasn't consistent. And this is the thing we saw last year as well. Good defensive possessions at some times, but it just wasn't consistent throughout the whole game. And these are things we need to look at. But at the end of the day, Zach LaVine didn't make his shots, and that's why his stat line is what it is today. He did take some questionable shots. He ended up bricking a really bad three-pointer. I don't really know what else to say outside of Zach LaVine didn't make his shots, and it's as simple as that. Moving on into the bench, Alex Caruso had 8 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. Alex Caruso was fantastic in tonight's performance, and again, he is a very impressive player to watch, ladies and gentlemen. His IQ is great. He's very intense. He does work. It looks like he's giving 100% on that court every time he plays, and that's something that he did say in his press conferences on training camp and media day. He was absolutely sensational. He gives 100% all the time, and that's something you can clearly see, and it shows in his performances tonight. Good defensive display, good rebounding display, good defensive display. He was playmaking once again at a high level. He was just all in all a great player for the Chicago Bulls today, and he definitely helped us when we looked down and out. Alize Johnson had 14 points, 11 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal. Now, Alize Johnson is 6'8", and I was really worried when Taco Fall came into that game. Again, Taco Fall, we all know, is a really big center. We all know this about Taco Fall, and we all know rebounding-wise, he could definitely give our players a run for their money. But Alize Johnson stood up, in my opinion, and took that task head-on, and he didn't look out of place at the center position once again. His points were gritty. They weren't always the prettiest points. It was getting rebounds and going up again. It was making sure that he took the easy shots, and of course, his rebounding was absolutely well needed for the Chicago Bulls as well. He is played, I guess, backup center minutes, and he is probably going to lead our team in rebounding for this preseason, and maybe even that could be something we see in the regular season as well. His rebounding is absolutely sensational, and again, he is stepping up to the occasion, and he's trying to show the coaching staff that he deserves the minutes that he should be getting in the regular season. And so far, I don't see why Alize Johnson can't get meaningful minutes in this regular season. He is showing to many people how good he can be. I think Brooklyn really missed out on a player like him. Derrick Jones Jr. had 10 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. This is not a bad game for Derrick Jones Jr. This is his first, I guess, really meaningful minutes for the Chicago Bulls. He got to play with the rotation. We did see a very late rotation for the Chicago Bulls as well. We ended up playing some of our starters in that fourth quarter. Very interesting to see, and of course I think Memphis, we're going to see a very similar thing as well. But Derrick Jones Jr., it seems to be he's going to be a big part of this team, and he definitely played with that rotation, and he didn't have a bad game in my opinion. We'll wait and see how he does in future games. And then the last player I'm going to talk about, the player that absolutely took us over the line and sealed the victory for the Chicago Bulls, Ino De Souza, Chicago's own. I know many people want me to talk about Ino today, and he definitely deserves the high praise that he gets. He only had 9 points and 1 rebound, but let's not forget, 7 minutes or 7 minutes and 20 seconds, whatever it was. This guy had 9 points in 7 minutes, not to mention that he got the game-winning shot for the Chicago Bulls. He ended up getting a nice layup over Taco Fall, and it was absolutely beautiful. He did take over that fourth quarter, and he showed his value to the Chicago Bulls. I'm very proud of Io for doing this, and in the end, hopefully we can see minutes in the regular season where Io can do stuff like this again. He's really impressing me with his ability to score. In the Summer League, he struggled with his ability to score at times unless it was on the fast break. So far, in this period of time, in preseason, after the Summer League, he's impressing me with his ability to score. His three-point shooting was good as well. It looks like he's going to fit right into this team. I'm really proud of his performance, and I can't wait to see. He should get more minutes, let's be honest. I think he was probably our third best bench player, but he definitely took us over the line, and I definitely think he deserves more minutes. I hope we get to see that in the game against Memphis, but the reality is we'll just wait and see. Playing the fourth quarter only, I think, with the way that he's been performing, I think it needs more than just the fourth quarter, let's be honest. And those were the individual performances today, ladies and gentlemen. So, let's move into the must improve. My must improve is Nikola Vucevic. Very simple. We all know why. The foul trouble, the poor defensive displays. He just wasn't great today, and he missed a lot of wide open shots. This is a game from Nikola Vucevic where I was a bit concerned. And again, when they're playing big, you need your big man to step up, like Nikola Vucevic. He needs to step up and deliver on the court. When we're getting outnumbered or we're getting outsized in certain areas, Nikola Vucevic needs to be the one to step up, and I just don't think he did it enough today. He didn't do enough for me, and he is my must-improve player. He definitely needs a big step-up game in the next one, and hopefully we get to see that. And my player of the game is DeMar DeRozan with those 23 points and those 4 rebounds and 2 assists. Again, his third quarter was absolutely crucial for the Chicago Bulls. He stepped up very nicely, and he made some really big shots to keep us in this game. And because of him, ladies and gentlemen, we ended up winning this game in close fashion, and Io deserves big praise as well for those 9 points in 7 minutes. An absolutely stellar performance from that fourth quarter from Io De Souza. Big performance there. But DeMar is my player of the game. The Chicago Bulls are 3-0 in preseason. This one looked like we were going to see our first loss, but in the end, that bench performance in that fourth quarter brought the game back to life, and we ended up winning the game, which was really nice to see. And our undefeated preseason record continues. And we have one more game left. It's all the way down at the end of the week against the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, Memphis could be our biggest test in this preseason. I don't know what team we're going to see from the Memphis Grizzlies, but the Chicago Bulls, this is the game where I feel we're going to see our best rotation. I think this is going to be the rotation that we're going to see throughout the period of the regular season against Detroit and against the Pelicans. I think we're going to see the main starting 5. We're going to see the main bench players play in this game. And if it's a blowout, we get to see those garbage time minutes. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. But in the end, this is the thing that I think we're going to see from the Chicago Bulls against Memphis. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. A little bit of a longer video, but we had more to talk about. At the end of the day, the positives and the negatives need to be shown, because this was not an all-positive game. I know we can all sit here and smile about the win, and it's great to win games, and grinding out games is important. But when there are negatives that needs to be talked about, we have to be honest, and we need to talk about the negatives as well. There are always positives and negatives in games, and sometimes the negatives need to be expressed so they can end up learning from it in the future. And hopefully we get to see the Chicago Bulls learn from some of their mistakes in this game over into the next one and the regular season where it counts. Have a wonderful and safe day, Bulls Nation. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care.